This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're doing an Android tablet smackdown between two Tegra 3 quad-core Android 10-inch tablets. Over here we have the Acer Iconia Tab A510, brand new, just came out at the end of April 2012. And here we have the Asus ePad Transformer Prime, which made quite a splash when it came out at the beginning of this year. Technically the end of last year, but gosh, there were probably only a couple thousand in stock at the time for sale. But anyway, it was the first Tegra 3 tablet. Now both of these are running on the same CPU. You're going to get the same performance, empirically speaking, other than any software optimizations or differences. And both manufacturers really didn't do much to change the UI on this or do any overlays or anything like that. So you're talking about same CPU, same GPU, same baseline performance therefore. The Tegra 3 is pretty exciting, of course, because it is a quad-core CPU, or technically it's a quad-core plus fifth companion low-power core with NVIDIA graphics, GeForce Mobile graphics on board. So these guys are currently the most powerful tablets on the market. Now, the Asus Transformer TF300 will be coming out shortly, and that one has a slightly lower clocked Tegra 3. It should be in the same ballpark performance, slightly lower GPU clock speeds, but overall, again, pretty similar. And we'll be doing a comparison smackdown with that one too, don't you worry about that. Now, price-wise, the Iconia Tab sits in between the Transformer Prime, which is Asus's high line, and their TF300, which is their lower-end 10-inch tablet. The Iconia Tab is $449, though Amazon's already selling it for $429, which is a pretty good deal, really, for quite a powerful full-feature tablet. Transformer Prime, also both of these, with talking about the 32 gig configuration, is $499, and the TF300, the lower-end Asus tablet, is going to be $399. Now, obviously, in terms of overall size, you're looking at pretty much the same thing here. They're both 10.1-inch tablets. They both have 1280 by 800 displays. The Transformer Prime, of course, is one of the lightest tablets and thinnest tablets on the planet right now, especially since the new iPad got a little bit thicker and heavier than the iPad 2. It's 0.32 inches thin, which is quite thin, and it weighs 1.3 pounds. And the Acer Iconia Tab is 0.43 inches, so a little bit thicker there, and it weighs 1.54 pounds. Now we're going to forgive it in this case for weighing a little bit more because it has an immense battery inside, 9,800 milliamps. That's about 36 watt per hour battery versus the 22 watt per hour battery that's in the Transformer Prime. So you can guess who lasts longer here. It's the Acer Iconia Tab, whose battery power is almost equal to the Transformer Prime, plus its optional keyboard dock that has a battery inside. Now you can watch our video reviews of each of these to see them in detail, but we'll just give you a side view here for comparison so you can get the idea. The Iconia has their usual kind of flattened off edges. It has their standard distinctive look for styling. They're not the most styling certainly on the planet. And here we have the Transformer Prime, which is clearly thinner. Now if we take a look at the back, that's where the real show begins. This is where the Prime takes off a bit because we have this swirled aluminum back here, which looks pretty cool, versus the soft touch black stippled finish that the Acer has, which actually feels very good in hand and is pretty grippy, so I'm actually not going to complain about it. But from absolute chi, which is more stunning looking and striking, certainly it's going to be the Asus. Now, the drawback with the Asus is, oddly, you think this is metal, so this one should be a lot more durable. This actually scratches fairly easily, and the soft touch finish on this, no, not so much. The other challenge with the Asus is because they went with those really nice rounded corners, kind of taking on the iPad 2 at the time, the ports and controls are very poorly protected. Now it's a little bit hard to see that on the camera, but maybe you can see there's a bevel here. So this is your micro HDMI port, leaving the cable, sometimes the metal connector, actually a little bit exposed and a little bit prone to breaking off. This is the micro SD card slot here, and you can see the card is actually sticking out a little bit from the side of the chassis, which has made a couple of Prime owners crazy because you bump on it and it has the usual auto eject mechanism and it shoots out, so you might lose your micro SD card. And lastly, the dock connector here, once again, is not very well protected, and some folks have actually broken those with their charger cords kind of thing because, well, it might be pretty, but it's not so super protected. And while we're talking about physical design, you can see this is the little speaker grill right here. Now this technically actually does have stereo speakers, but it's got two little stereo speakers right side by side, so you don't really get much of a stereo effect. And volume on this is not super duper loud. It's okay, it's not bad, but not much stereo separation going on. So definitely the Asus wins for beauty, but in terms of practicality of the design, not so much. That's where the Acer pulls ahead with its more everyday, kind of rugged, stoic design. Now as we look around on the Acer, you can see here's your power button, which is very easy to operate. By the way, because of the bevel and the teeny power button on the Prime, that's another thing. It's really kind of hard to press that. And here on the side we have our micro HDMI port, nice normal flat kind of thing, so it's supported nicely. Under here you have your micro SD card slot, and if there was a 3G option there would be the 3G, 4G SIM card slot under here too, so well protected. Of course you do have a little fiddly door here to deal with, so for those of you who hate fiddly doors, there's that. And on the bottom we have our micro USB connector, that's where you charge and where you can plug in micro USB stuff, and again it's pretty much a normal connector, a good amount of support. And here we have the stereo speakers, good size speakers. This tablet has really good sound. So you get good audio separation because, well, they're so far apart. That's about as far apart as you could put these two guys. Also, I like the fact that they fire down. They don't exactly get blocked by your hand, but I tend to hold my tablet on the sides, and when the speaker's on the side, well, what happens? I'm muffling my speakers. In terms of audio, the Iconia tab has Dolby 5.1 mobile. How useful that is to you? Well, if you're plugging in HDMI, that's when it starts to be useful, if you're plugging this into an AV receiver. And it does behave well. We had some movie trailers that were high quality 1080p with Dolby 5.1 and plugged it into our Sony AV receiver, and we got 5.1 out. It was very nice, it was very cool. Transformer Prime, this has been the story with the Prime. This is my personal Prime, I like my Prime, but it's always a little cranky and a little bit weird, and HDMI is another one of those things. I've tried a million HDMI cables, a bunch of different receivers, and I can never get 5.1 out. It's just darn picky that way. But in theory, it's supposed to be able to do it. In terms of display quality, obviously the Prime is one of those shining examples of neat display technology. It's not a Retina display like the new iPad, but it has an IPS Plus display. What that means is it has a super bright mode. It's around 350 nits if you have it in regular IPS mode, and if you put it in IPS Plus mode, it's 600 nits of brightness. Now that's not just so you can scald your retinas indoors, that's so you can use it outside and actually still see it. It combats glare better and it combats sunlight, so that's a pretty good selling point. The Iconia tab has a normal display, no high bright setting. It is, however, a very nice and bright display, and it's a little bit of a cooler color cast. You can probably see that on the video, but actually it has surprisingly a bit more color saturation. I don't know how well that's going to show up on video, but in person the colors are actually a little bit richer and deeper on the Iconia tab, which is, again, surprising. Now contrast on the Asus Transformer Prime is really high. It's mega contrast, postmodern, trendy looking high contrast kind of stuff. And a lot of people like that. It makes movies really pop. It makes photos look very stark and makes them look sharper than they actually are because of the high apparent contrast. So that can be an appealing look, and it really depends on your taste. Both of these have very wide viewing angles. We're waiting for Acer to get back to us and tell us what display technology they're using here, but it has IPS-like viewing angles. You can really lay it down flat on the table and still watch a movie without having any distortion of color or brightness. It's pretty cool. But still, we have to give the nod to the Prime for the IPS Plus for those of you who want to use it outdoors. As you can see in the video here, it tends to pulsate when being recorded on video, which is something we really can't stop. So sorry about that, but that's an interesting thing. Can our eyes, naked eyes, see that pulsing? No, they can't. Both of these tablets are running Android 4.03 Ice Cream Sandwich. The Acer ships with that out of the box, and now the Prime is starting to ship with it out of the box too. If you buy one new, of course if you bought one when they first came out, you had to go through the upgrade process, but that wasn't any big difficult deal. So we're again on cutting edge and square footing there. They both run the latest greatest operating system, which is still, months after it was released, a relative rarity on tablets and smartphones. In terms of software updates, Asus has been very good with that. With the Prime, when there were problems, my goodness, they were just tossing out updates right and left to deal with that, and they tend to be on the cutting edge for giving OS upgrades when they come. Acer has not been so fast with OS upgrades, so if you're somebody who likes to always be on the latest, greatest release of Android, that's a selling point for Asus. They're usually very good about pumping those out. These two guys benchmark identically on Quadrant, on Tutu, OpenGL benchmark. You're looking again at neck and neck hardware empirical equalness. In terms of everyday use, they both feel very responsive for Android tablets. See, the UI is nice and zippy on both of these. In terms of UI customization, as I said, there's really not much going on here. It seems like Google is frowning on a lot of UI customization on top of ice cream sandwich tablets. One thing that I will note in terms of performance is one thing that has plagued the Prime is this annoying thing with occasional, I'm not sure if it's due to accessing the internal storage memory or what it is, but you're using the web browser or some other application, and sometimes there's a pause, and then you get this dialog and it says wait or force close. Now you should wait. It's really just taking longer than the device expected. It's not really stuck. It doesn't need to be force closed, but we have been getting that on the Acer, so that's an interesting thing. So I've actually found web browsing to be more enjoyable using the built-in Android web browser and using Chrome because of that. Both of these tablets have Bluetooth, they have Wi-Fi 802.11bgn, and nominally they have a GPS. I say nominally because here we go again with the Prime. You know the story. The GPS didn't work so well out of the box. The metal back might have been a problem. The connector's over here at the top underneath. I think if you saw my Squeezy Prime video, you saw me squeezing it to actually try to get some better performance out of Wi-Fi and the GPS. GPS really not so much if you're using a standalone. If it's Wi-Fi assisted, then it's fine. You're going to run this thing, you're going to launch Google Maps, and it's going to find where you are based on Wi-Fi triangulation of access points in your neighborhood. But if you're not in Wi-Fi access range, or you turn Wi-Fi off, it's pretty much dead as a doornail. Even if you take it outside, yeah, we have the C01 serial number series, so it's fairly late. It's not the very newest that they made, and really, it still doesn't cut it. Now, we use GPS test and GPS status on both of these to actually just see how many satellites we're locking onto. The Acer has no problem. You can turn off Wi-Fi. Even indoors, you can get a lock on 3 to 5 satellites. Outdoors, consistently, we had 7 to 12. So for those of you who want to use this for navigation, in either case, you're going to have to either sideload some maps on there first or use a mobile hotspot to get streaming map data from something like Google. But other than that, if you want to use them as a GPS, the Iconia tab is a better bet. In terms of Wi-Fi performance, again, we did that Squeezy Prime thing where I squeezed up here at the bezel to get the connectors to mate up better on my Prime. And since then, it's been pretty good, but I see about 5 dB better performance from the Acer than I do from the Asus. So a little bit better reception on the Acer. Again, my particular Prime has not been a real problem child with Wi-Fi anyway. And in terms of speed tests for download being close and far from the router, I noticed that with the Prime you really do need to be closer to the router to get your maximum download speeds, whatever your ISP is providing you, but it does stay usable, say 20 feet from the access point. Acer has no problem, even if you go 20 to 30 feet away, still maintaining good speeds. And we've got some speed test results up here, so you can see now our connection is a Fios connection. It's 25 megabit down, 25 megabit up, so usually we don't see devices going too much over that, though. The Acer particularly actually managed to exceed that. So here's the Acer. And the topmost number, we were actually about 24 feet away from the router with one wall in between, and the speed really didn't change much. So again, with the 25-25 connection, that's pretty good. Don't know why we got a low upload number here, but we got an insanely high download speed there, so you know, a little this, a little that, I suppose. And here, see, we've been testing our Prime a lot more lately. You can see more variability, but overall the speeds are not quite as high, but they're not terrible either. So we're not talking about, oh my goodness, it's terrible, it's unusable, that kind of thing. In terms of gaming, they're both equally capable. Again, you got that Tegra 3 CPU. You can play Tegra Zone games, which are designed for Tegra 3 tablets. That's pretty cool. And for non-Tegra games, there's a selection available for each. Gameloft has typically been supporting Acer for some reason better than the Asus Transformer and Transformer Prime, but there are about 11 games listed right now for the Transformer Prime if you're a Gameloft fan. In terms of video playback, again, you're looking at the same capabilities other than the fact that the Prime is a little cranky with that HDMI out and doing Dolby 5.1 for those of you who want to plug it into an external AV receiver, but they're both equally capable. They can both do Netflix, they can stream YouTube, they can do Amazon Prime Video using the Adobe Flash player in the built-in web browser. In terms of stability, now I've had that Prime for several months and I've only had the Acer for a week, so we're still doing tests on that, but so far the Acer has been more stable for me. I see fewer force quits and strange force close error messages, that kind of thing that happens from time to time on the Prime. Doesn't happen, 5 times a day or something like that. Not terrible at all, but about once a day in the Prime I see some kind of error message, whereas I've only seen it one of those once in 5 days on the Acer. So that's pretty good there. And overall, again, with the browser speeds being a bit better, not having that wait or force close thing going on, I feel like the Acer is maybe, because they waited several months before coming out with this, a little bit more stable and polished out of the gate. And that leads to really who these devices are for. I mean, they're only $50 apart, let's face it. If you want the gorgeous, skinny, metal back Prime, that's certainly understandable for only $50 more, and that IPS Plus display. It's got a lot of sexy hardware going on there, but I think the target markets are a little bit different here. For the Acer, you're talking about a tablet that kind of just works. It doesn't have the problems with Wi-Fi or GPS. It's a bit more stable, that kind of thing. So it's for those of you who don't have to have the most cutting-edge, sexy design, but just want a tablet that trudges along every day. For those of you who are into high performance, best possible specs, you're willing to tinker with your tablet a little more, boy, the Prime is very rewarding in that case. One thing that is interesting, though, Asus has been locking their bootloaders. For those of you who like to not only root your device but put on custom ROMs, you know the deal. You can get it unlocked, and then you have to say, okay, but I agree to forego my warranty potentially. The Acer bootloader is actually unlockable, no problem, and the Acer is also pretty easily rootable. You can use the same method that's used on the A100. It's a pretty easy thing to do. So for those of you who are geeky, there's the trade-off. There's one that's pretty easy to unlock the bootloader yourself. There's another one where, well, clearly Asus doesn't really want you to do that, but you can do it if you want to do it. Now, both of these tablets support USB host. What does that mean? That means you can use USB peripherals like keyboards, mice, flash drives, NTFS formatted self-powered hard drives even, which is pretty cool. I find the NTFS support to be a little bit better on the Acer. It works with third-party file managers like Astro and Android Explorer and all that kind of thing, whereas I've had to stick with the built-in basic file explorer that comes with the Transformer Prime when accessing NTFS shares. They just won't show up otherwise on other file managers. You can use USB game controllers with these guys as well. USB modems, no, because Android doesn't have drivers for those in either case. And for audio hardware, fancy stuff like that, no, you're not going to find the drivers for that. But for your basic peripherals, it's a go on both. Now, what's cool about the Acer is it comes with the little USB host cable in the box. So you plug this guy in the bottom connector, and there you've got your USB port. So you just plug your peripheral in here. This, you either get the keyboard dock, which is $150 now. Hey, you don't want to spend $150 if you just want a USB port, right? Well, there's a fairly little known secret, which is there's this $20 adapter that Asus makes that plugs into the bottom port again, and this is your little USB adapter, so there's a USB port here. So you have to hunt around and find these. Micro Center often has them. You can get them online from them. You might find them on Amazon. But this will do the same thing, so you don't actually have to buy the $150 keyboard dock to get a USB port. But speaking of the keyboard dock, that's another thing that sets these two guys apart. For those of you who just want to use a straight tablet, then what we've been doing so far is exactly what you care about. But for those of you who have the desire to transform your tablet into a netbook-sized device with a keyboard and a clamshell design, that $150 keyboard dock is the deal. Of course, here it is. Those of you who watched our Prime review know all about this. Prime goes right in this slot right here, and then it works just like a little clamshell notebook. So you've got the keyboard, you've got the trackpad, and you have one USB port here and a full-size SD card slot as well. Now with either of these guys you can use Bluetooth keyboards as well as USB keyboards, so it doesn't mean you don't have input options with the Acer, but you can't turn it into a cute little clamshell notebook. So that's our Acer Iconia Tab A510 versus Asus ePad Transformer Prime comparison smackdown. And surprisingly, Acer has really turned out a good product here. They've been going for the budget products lately, but this is their high-end offering. It's really pretty good. And I didn't think it was going to give the Prime a run for its money, but actually it has, in terms of especially just that everyday usability, from the fact that the ports are well protected, the power button is easy to use, it feels nice in hand thanks to that rubber back. And it's pretty stable, and the Wi-Fi and GPS and all that stuff work, and they don't have to tinker as much. But again, for the Prime, for you power users, boy, that's still a very appealing piece with its really high-end build, its nice IPS Plus display. And the Acer scores a big win, and we forgive it for being a little bit chubbier and heavier because that much higher capacity battery really gives you about an hour and a half more runtime, which is pretty nice. You don't need to use that keyboard dock to get up to 36, 38 watt per hours of battery total. So this guy here, the Energizer Bunny, pretty cool. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Don't forget to watch our video reviews of both of these products and read our reviews on Mobile Tech Review.